Hi, it's Anna here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to discuss the book titled The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself by Michael Singer. And this is in the self-help spiritual category. And the reason why I wanted to bring this book to my channel is that true transformation really happened for me when I opened myself up to spirituality. And this was huge for me because I've been left brain and very analytical my entire life, and I was raised atheist. So opening myself up to spirituality has not only been difficult, but it's been paramount to the level of growth that I've been able to achieve in only a few years. So I do hope you enjoyed this summary, and if you haven't started the process already, I really hope that it triggers the start of self-exploration for you. So in a nutshell, this book is about realizing that we are not our thoughts and emotions. We are not this personality that we think we are. We are so much more than this. We are a spirit. We are a soul in a human body. And aligning ourselves up to this higher aspect of ourselves rather than the lower aspect of our personality is key in finding balance and inner peace. Without spirituality, we are way too focused on the detail. We are way too focused on seeing the world through our five senses. Spirituality actually allows us to zoom out, to look at the bigger picture and the bigger perspective of things, so that we can align ourselves to what we truly want and achieve this level of happiness and joy that we want in our life, this level of fulfillment. I highly recommend this book. It's very well written and it has a lot of practical advice on how to find that inner peace and to silence that inner critic within ourselves. I have decided to divide this book in three parts. First, we will discuss who we are, then we will discuss the purpose of life, and then we will end with 5 practical advice that the author gives us that we can apply to everyday life. So let's start with defining who we are. In the first part of the book, the author makes us understand that we are not the voice inside our head. And I know that I used to think that I was, and it's not surprising because society has been set up to make us really prioritize our left brain, our analytical mind, which promotes an overemphasis on the mind. I'm sure you are familiar with the quote from Descartes that says, "I think, therefore I am." This is how the school system operates and how success has been defined in our society. But we are not our voice inside our head. We actually are the one who can observe the voice inside our head, objectively and without judgment. And if you're hearing it talk, obviously it's not you. You are the one who hears the voice. You are the one who notices that it's talking. And this is why meditation can be so beneficial in starting to observe that voice. And if you haven't already done it, I highly recommend you watch the video that I did on meditation. The most benefit that I got from meditation is the ability to gain this level of awareness. Being able to expand our consciousness to become more of an observer is actually key to true growth. Once you start observing that voice inside your head, you will come to realize that what that voice says is often meaningless and a waste of time and energy. This is often referred to as monkey mind or monkey chatter for that reason. It's often just narrating the world around you or making judgments, assumptions, and it can be extremely negative at times too. I also highly recommend you watch my video on cognitive distortions that goes into more detail about deprogramming ourselves from these negative thoughts. And the reason we have that voice is that it makes us feel more in control of the outside world, which is actually an illusion of control. And that voice isn't objective. It gets filtered through our perception, which is based on all the programs and beliefs we have running based on our life up until now, which is why you will notice that two people can have a completely different perspective, even though they are observing the exact same situation. You exist regardless, thoughts or no thoughts. You are the experiencer, the awareness, consciousness. Consciousness is pure awareness. And the goal of spiritual growth is to continue to expand our consciousness exponentially. Also, one thing I want to add that I don't believe is in the book is that not all thoughts and emotions are actually ours. You will understand that if you are highly empathetic, you tend to absorb feelings that are not ours, feelings from other people. And it's the same with our thoughts. And the more you observe your thoughts and emotions, the more you will be able to discern what's yours and what's not yours. So now let's discuss what the purpose of life is, this million-dollar question, right? The author tells us that life is about experiences, growth, and change. And it's about enjoying and learning from our experiences. Because you can realize that change in life is inevitable and you can't control what happens around you. But you can control the lessons that you extract from it. And once you come to realize that, you will actually make spiritual and personal growth your priority. The author explains that being unhappy with our experiences is a waste of time and energy and creates unnecessary suffering. And we should be using those experiences as fuel for growth. Just one thing that I want to add though is that it's very important to still feel our feelings. There's a tendency to use spirituality to escape our feelings, and that can be spiritual bypassing. And on that note, if you are not really sure where to start with understanding your emotions, I also highly recommend you watch this video that I did. How you heal and grow is by becoming aware and breaking down the walls that you have built around you to protect yourself from pain, to protect yourself from the outside world. It's about removing this invisible cage you are in that is preventing you from experiencing a joyful and peaceful life. Protecting yourself from the outside is a futile endeavor that only creates more issues. Your happiness can't be conditioned upon the behaviors of other people or certain things happening exactly how you want them to. It's a recipe for disaster to think this way. Changing the external is often what we focus on, but it won't actually fix the root cause of our feelings and often creates more issues. The ultimate goal is to unify all parts of you so that your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned with your soul. Aligning your conscious mind with your unconscious mind. Aligning your mind and heart together, and ultimately transcending your ego construct, which is the personality. Making it less about you, taking things less personally. And this is a journey, a process. It takes time and practice, and this is what this life journey is all about. Now, what I really like about this book is that it's not just spiritual fluff and grand words. The author actually provides really practical tips on how to navigate life. And I've decided to divide these into 5 practical tips. The first one is about becoming the observer. And again, meditation is a wonderful practice to be able to become the observer of your thoughts and emotions. It will allow you to zoom out and take the viewpoint of the observer rather than being immersed in your mind. And you will realize that the real cause of issues is not life itself. It's the commotion that our mind makes about life that really causes problems. And the reason we do this is not because our mind is out to get us. It's actually trying to protect us. It's a protective mechanism, a defense system, because it's trying to protect us from the outside world. But it's actually an illusion. We think that if we change the outside world, we will be okay, but nobody has ever truly been okay by changing outside circumstances. And not to mention that living in our mind and the monkey chatter is so exhausting, and I speak from experience. When you constantly remind yourself that you are not the voice inside your head, and you zoom out to simply notice and observe what's happening in your mind, that voice actually loses its power. You are then able to transcend that voice. So you can simply observe that you are angry or sad, and you don't need to analyze it over and over again in your mind. You just observe it. And the more you practice this, the more you will be able to gain this level of self-awareness, where you will be able to discern what's happening in your head and your body so that you know what next steps you need to take in your life. The next practical tip is about acceptance, and this is a huge one. So the author tells us that the key is to start dealing with each situation from a place of acceptance. And it doesn't mean that, we don't do anything and we accept anything. We do deal with them, but we do deal with situations as events that happen on planet Earth rather than taking them so personally. We have this tendency to worry and tense up about things happening in our lives. But what's really surprising is that most of the time, we actually don't need to deal with anything except for our own worries and fears. So it's about deciding not to fight with life, realizing and accepting that life is not under your control. Life is continuously changing, and if you're trying to control it, you won't be able to fully live it. It's about learning to stop resisting reality and using challenges as opportunities for growth and events that are actually trying to stir us back in the right direction. And when we stop resisting reality, we start realizing that often what we think are stressful problems are actually stepping stones in our spiritual journey. The third tip is about keeping our heart open, which is in direct correlation to acceptance. Because when you are in acceptance, you keep your heart open, whereas when you are resisting, you close your heart. And the author explains that our heart center is actually an energy center. This is where our life force energy stems from. And when we have this tendency to close our hearts, which is, what a lot of us have done and have been taught to do because we are trying to control the external and trying to protect ourselves, we block this flow of energy. And this is often why we feel so tired all the time. Because by closing our hearts over and over again, we have created blockages and we are blocking the access and the flow of that life force energy. And I'm sure you can realize that in your everyday life. When you are fully in the present moment, you are in flow with life. Your heart is fully open. You're not resisting anything. But when bad things happen, that's when we tend to tense up and close our heart. And this is a bad habit that we need to undo. And it's no wonder that we do this, because when bad things happen, it's painful. We don't want to feel that pain, but it's actually counterproductive. Because when you are not feeling that pain, you're bottling it up. And this is why you have triggers, because you've bottled up these things from years ago that are coming back up in the present moment as an opportunity for release. So it's about, being comfortable with feeling that pain. And you understand that when you start actually practicing this, that feeling that pain, yes, it's uncomfortable, but it actually goes very quickly. It goes through very quickly. Whereas when we're resisting and resisting and resisting it, it bottles up and becomes this big thing that you have to deal with later on. So it's about fostering this state of openness about anything that's happening and not having this resistance to pain. And obviously this is very difficult and it takes practice and time. And, I'm still a work in progress, but the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. The fourth tip is about embracing change. And I think there's this quote that says that the only constant in life is change. And it's so true. So it's about embracing the fact that there will be change in your life. And in fact, that's actually the whole point of life. The whole point of life is to grow and change. You're not meant to keep things the same and to stay the same person. And it won't be comfortable. It's painful at times, but that's okay. It's also about accepting that. Feeling that pain and just letting things happen the way they're supposed to. And last but not least, the last tip is about balance. The fact that life is all about achieving balance. And here the author gives us this great analogy of the pendulum. And it's about showcasing that everything has two extremes. Doing too much and not doing anything. Codependency in relationships versus extreme independence. Extremes aren't good for you. It's all about balance, the middle ground, being centered. Just like water is good for you, but drinking too much water can actually kill you. And as you can see with this pendulum, extremes also can't last. They are not sustainable. How long can a pendulum stay at one of its outermost positions? Just for a second, right? You actually waste so much energy at the extremes because you have to work hard to keep it there. So the key to life is to remain balanced and centered with everything. It's about centering yourself and consciously choosing not to participate in the extremes. And as you center by not participating in the swings, the energies will naturally find their balance. You will become much clearer because instead of expending energy, you will retain that energy. And life also becomes much simpler. One thing that I want to add here is that sometimes you do have to be at those extremes. And, just like what the authors say about achieving balance, your healing process and your spiritual journey is also a balance. You won't always be able to get it right all of the time. It's a journey. So go easy on yourself. The goal is balance, and you try your best to achieve that. And sometimes you won't be able to, and that's okay. Ultimately, this book is about leaving the world of the mind and dropping more into our heart. Leaving the world of the ego personality and aligning more with our soul. But spiritual growth and healing is a journey, it's a process, and it takes time and practice. So please remember to show yourself a lot of grace and compassion and be patient with yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye.